Alright, here we have Unit 7. So this is a pretty short unit. Starting off in 7.1, it talks about how to add verb suffix pronouns to the imperfective version of verbs. So I put the rules here. You add the verb suffix pronoun after the root word, but before the al suffix that goes with the imperfective. The verb suffix pronoun indicates that the action that the main subject is doing is being done towards the person or at the person, indicated by the verb suffix pronoun, and that'll make more sense with examples. This person, however, is not necessarily the direct object of the verb, which doesn't really matter too much, but if you wanted the extra information, that's what that's for. So I actually am re-recording one little part of this because I got it wrong when I explained it initially, but the textbook later on down here, it mentioned something that it wants us to keep in mind / remember, and that's that for third person singular, which is he, and third person plural, which is they are the exact same except for this you in the third person plural. And what that means is, here if we wanted to say like they want me, like this you here, nyal, is what's gonna make this word different from third person masculine. Like if you wanted to say he wants me, this word and the word down below are the same. It's just that there's a you here, and that's how you are able to tell that it's talking about third person plural, which is they, them, instead of third person singular masculine, which is he, him, / it, because technically third person masculine can be referring to an object or a guy. So you could be saying like, it wants me or something, potentially. So going over to the textbook side, here's that rule I just mentioned, where the verb suffix pronoun is put before the al. And here are the verb suffix pronouns if you forgot. These are from Unit 3. And here the textbook is showing all these different examples of imperfectives with verb suffix pronouns. So ifellegallo is I want. Here we're putting in different verb suffixes in the middle of the word basically, and then we'll be able to have it be I want him, I want you female, I want you polite, I want her, etc. If there are certain subjects missing from what could be used for verb suffix pronouns, it's probably because that subject doesn't make sense. Like you can't say I want myself, that wouldn't normally make sense, so that's why it's not being shown here. Or saying I want us, because that's kind of including yourself in it, so it doesn't really make sense. Maybe you can say them, I'm not going to say it's impossible to say them, but that's why those subjects that can have the action directed towards them might be missing from certain examples. That's how the textbook decided to teach you guys. I personally want to teach you guys a different way. So my general system is that you have the imperfective suffix, the verb root, the verb suffix pronoun, and then the suffix of the imperfective, which might be kind of weird, but hopefully it'll help make things a little more plug and chug. Starting with first person, the root is fellig, which we've talked about in other sections. It would be fellig would go here, and then whoever you want to direct the action towards. So let's say you want to direct it to him. We would come over here and we would look for he, him. It's EW after consonants, W after vowels. And so it would be fellig au allo. Ifelligawallo. I'm not like all at once, it would probably sound something more like ifelligwallo. And the pronunciations can be a little bit difficult to get without having someone say them, like a native Amharic speaker, but I'll try to do my best with other examples. So let's say you wanted to say he wants me. Mawek is to know. If you get the root of the word, it'd be awek. So we have the prefix, and I put the I in parentheses here for these prefixes because if the word begins with a vowel and that vowel will be an A, it'll just overpower this I. So that's why we have yawek here and not ye-awek or something. It's just yawek. And then we want to say towards myself. We come over here, en after consonants. It's like this squiggly line over an N I represent with a GN personally. And then after vowels, it's just the squiggly line with an N. So I would add my ain here and then al. And this would be saying he wants me. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, where the verb suffix pronoun indicates like who is sort of having the action done towards or at. The main subject of the verb is this last suffix will indicate it. Well, the prefix and suffix together will indicate that person. And the sentence will start with the main subject doing whatever, and then that action will be directed towards the verb suffix pronoun. The notable exceptions are you female, of course. Coming down here, we learned some pretty important rules. This IY that occasionally comes up in the second person female, which I think we talked about in Unit 6. And I can show part of the textbook that talks about it, where you can have the same word. There are versions of it that don't have this iya thing. So tekef chalish means you female will open, or tekef chialish also means you female will open. That IY here is going to come after the stem, but before the verb suffix pronoun. Maybe coming up here will help make that clear. So normally if you have a word like second person masculine, right? This is like you male will do something, right? And you wanted to say tifeligain ale, you male want me. This ain is coming after the felig part, but before the ale. Whereas here we're gonna see for second person female, which is you female. I think we can look at this example for it. So it would be tifelig iya talish. Like the iya is coming before this at, which is directing the action like you want her, and then the alish is coming afterward. The other exceptions are y'all and they. Second person plural is y'all, and it's going to be tifelig and then u. This u is being put here, and then you can add your verb suffix pronouns after the u. So let's look at this one. Tifeligun, like for us, so the action is being directed towards us by this m. Alachuhu is the normal suffix, and it's saying y'all want us. It says you want us, but this is supposed to be second person plural. The other exception is they, them, which is third person plural. If you wanted to say they want you female, it'd be yefeligu sha for directing the action to you female. That's what this hyphen s is supposed to represent, and then al, which is the normal ending. And that's basically what this is saying here, that the you for second and third person plural are regularly added to the stem before the verb suffix pronoun. Another important thing that the textbook mentions is that third person singular, which I think is meant to be referencing he, him, and then the third person, which is they, them, are going to be exactly the same except for this you here. That's going to be the difference. Like this will mean yefeligen, there's no you before this n for directing the object or directing the action towards me or I. He wants me. That's what that will mean. But if you add in like a you here before the verb suffix pronouns, it will then change it into they want whoever that verb suffix pronoun will be. Here it happens to be me or I, so they want me. Going into 7.2, so the textbook actually messes up here because it says that it's going to talk about how to say I had, you had, etc., and also had nots as indicated here in the table of contents. For saying I, he, she, whatever, had, I would just memorize this list. It's going to tell you that you can take the versions of nebere, neberech, and neberu, and nebere, neberech means it was, neberu means they were, and then you add verb suffix pronouns to the end of those words, and it changes the meaning into, for nebere, neberech, I had something, you had something, whatever the verb suffix pronoun is, and then for the plural version, it means like I had some sort of multiple of things. So this neberech version, it is sort of the feminine version of the word, and it kind of makes things in a diminutive sense, which we've talked about a little bit before. It's kind of tough to explain the exact usages of it, but I always kind of go back to saying like you're talking about a car or something, like, oh, she's a beauty, when you're talking about like an object. So maybe if you wanted to say like I had a car, like mekina neberechen, like that would be a way of saying like I had a car in a sort of feminine diminutive way. It doesn't really change the meaning that much overall, to be honest. So again, all these are going to look like nebere, which means it was, but then you add these verb suffix pronouns, then it changes the meaning. So neberen is I had, nebere you male had, neberesh you female had. Skipping urso tense, nebro he had, neberat she had, neberein we had, neberachuhu you all had, and neberacho they had. Same idea for all of these. And same idea for all of these. And again, just to clarify, like when you're talking about owning multiple different things, people will use this tense. To be honest, I would just hyper prioritize memorizing this version of it, then this version of it, and then this version of it. It's just not as common as the other two, but it's good to be able to understand it when people say it, but you can get away with not ever using it when you're speaking Amharic. And here are some examples. Beit neberein is I had a house. Beit och, which is plural, that's houses. ne brun, like I had houses. And ihit, which is one sister or a sister. Ne beretchain, I had a sister. So this is sort of like feminizing your sister. You don't need to do that. You can basically say and ihit ne berein, and it has the same meaning. Ihitoch ne bruin, like I had multiple sisters. So that was about the had versions of words. What about the had nots? I would recommend just going to English Dramatic, plugging these in, and taking these. I mean, some of them are a little bit more complicated than what they need to be, but I think basically if you add an al prefix to these and an m suffix here, you'll be able to say I had not, you male had not, you female had not, etc. Like if we look at I had not. Al neber. This is how it does the squiggly end with this ny thing here, and then you put like an m at the end, like al neberenyam, I had not. For this one, I don't know why it's al neberkim. Maybe that one works for saying you male had not or something. She had not. Al neberatim, like if you had an al here and an m here, al neberatim. It doesn't like one-to-one work for all of them, but this can help you. And you can always come back here and plug in certain words or phrases and check and see what Google Translate will give you, and the majority of the time it will probably be correct. So that's basically all of Unit 7. Again, highly recommend doing all the drills at the end of the textbook. And again, always remember to read the beginning of the textbook to gain some familiarity with some of the new words they may be using in this section and what their meanings will be. But that should be it for now, and I'll see you guys in the next one.